We're live again, and we're here for another fireside chat with Cindy Stone and I, Natasha Koo. And first, I would love to introduce Cindy Stone to all of you. If you haven't joined us before, then here is the psychotherapist and hypnotherapist, and she will be the author of the upcoming novel, Scorpion, from the Marriott series. And I'm going to be hosting this chat, and I'm Natasha Koo from Feminine Space. So welcome, Cindy, and today I think we're going to be talking all about our inner voices.
Hi, Natasha, and hi, everybody. As usual, it's great to be here, and we're going to have another great talk about something that is so important to our lives. It's life-changing. Mm-hmm. And, we originally talked about having this about our inner critical voice, which will probably be the bulk of what we talk about. But we have so many voices inside, and what we really want to do is we want to get to the deep inner voice, the one that has our best interest at heart, the one that can help guide us and help us to be sure about all our choices and decisions. And what we want to do is get clear on those critical voices, the ones that hold us back from life.
Right. So sometimes the question that I often get when I do interviews is people ask me, how do you know if it's an intuitive voice, one that's helping you, or how do you know if it's just the nagging thoughts that are passing by? So what is your trick, or what do you often share with your clients to kind of differentiate between the helpful thoughts or the voices that are really here to guide us?
Well, in a way, it's simple, but let's step back a little bit from that question. Because if we don't understand the critical voices, really understand them, then we can get mixed up between the intuitive voice that guides us and helps us, and the critical voice that stops us, can make us depressed, can make us really unhappy and sad. And so that's how I help people to discern between those voices. But first of all, some people don't even hear the voices as voices. Most of us do, but not everybody. Many of us experience our voices just as thoughts first. And the thought can be like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm no good. Oh, everybody else is really smart, but I'm not. Oh, everybody can talk really easily in the world, but I can't. Those can be experienced as thoughts only. And so the first step is to begin to experience those thoughts as actual voices. And an exercise that is quite simple, but is very, very helpful, is to write down the thoughts that you have about yourself. And as you write them down, then begin to identify them as voices. And sometimes it helps to actually give them a name. You can say, oh, there's my George voice talking again. And what you're looking for is that voice that's critical, the voice that doesn't have your best interest at heart, the voice that kind of brings you down, makes you sad, makes you upset or angry, the voice that makes you feel bad about yourself, or makes you feel like bad about other people in the world. And that's the critical voice that you want to identify and get really a deep awareness of, so that then you can begin to counteract that voice. The critical voice is deeply, intimately connected with our core beliefs. And, we always talk about core beliefs because that's so much at the basis of who we are. So our critical inner dialogue, which can go something like, oh, you're no good, you're stupid, whatever. That inner critical dialogue begins to confirm our core belief that we're no good, and then our core belief recreates our inner voice to be even nastier to us, more self-destructive. And so what we need to do is we need to look at when we feel depressed or even just a little down, when we feel a little sad, when we feel hurt. I mean, these inner voices for some of us, I know mine was very, very hurtful. It really put me down. And for many, many years, I was actually paralyzed. I didn't want to do anything. I just thought, like, I was the perfectionist that didn't do anything. I didn't even work at becoming perfect because I just thought that, oh, there's no point. I can't do anything. And it was in breaking that inner critical voice that really opened up my life and changed me forever. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it forms such a core of my therapy practice, is helping people to understand these internal voices.
Yeah, and I love how you named, this particular talk to call it the inner voices, because yes, there's a lot of things that are going on where it's an outward expression, like what we do, what we say, but that's just a part of it. There's so much going on inside, and sometimes we underestimate what's happening internally, such as our inner voices and the impact it can have on us, even though it's not happening on the outside. It doesn't seem real, but it does impact us. And I think like every thought is almost as strong as someone else saying it to us. It's almost like the same thing. They're all words, they're all sentences, and they all have energies attached to them, like a certain emotion. And they can be really, really powerful, even though they're inside of us. And only we can hear it inside our head.
In fact, they're even more powerful than external voices, because again, it's recreating our core beliefs, and it's confirming what we think of the worst parts of ourselves. It's very powerful to have an internal voice inside, constantly recording and going over all of these negative voices, and it's a very powerful process. So yes, maybe we're not saying it out loud, but because we're continually going over these voices inside, they produce a much deeper effect than even hearing it from the outside, because it's forming our core belief. And when it's a belief, we hang on to that instead of really questioning that belief, really saying, well, really? Is that who I am? And it's not. It is a voice. And sometimes these voices come from critical parents, and some people can identify that. That was my critical mother, or my overly critical father, or, my mean father, whatever. Sometimes it's really easy to identify, or that was that teacher who was really didn't like me and said mean things to me. And sometimes it's a lot more subtle. We've gotten these little subtle, particularly if we're really sensitive, as I was as a little child. I was like totally sensitive. Somebody just had to give me a look, and it would be like, oh, devastating. And that's how I created my internal negative dialogue and critical dialogue, was just, these little subtle things that I took on as meaning this great thing that I wasn't good enough. And so it's very freeing once you begin to identify how these inner voices have been created in you. Really getting to know them, I really encourage people to write them out on a page and look at them and really think about it. Did I hear this? Or where did I absorb these ideas about myself? And are they reality? Is this really what I'm like? And if it is, then you can do something about that. You can make a choice. You can become someone different, someone that you more want to be, someone who has, greater compassion, or much more calm and patient, whatever. So that's the difference also between just a critical voice, which makes us self-destructive, and then there's the voice that says, you know what, you were kind of like not very patient with that person who could have used your patience in that moment. So maybe you can work on becoming more patient, and you'll actually like yourself more when you do that. You'll feel really good about being patient with somebody who needs our patience. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that absolutely does. And I really like to think of inner voices, or I think a big portion of why we're talking about this specific topic is that it's not just something that's going on the back of our head that just happens to us and we're powerless to. To me, half of it is actually how do we engage with it? Because these voices, kind of like a conversation, right? Depending on how we react to it, whether we are even listening or not. Some we can really take in if we say, oh yeah, you're right. Then this conversation keeps on going, and you keep reconfirming the same ideas again and again, whether they're positive or negative. Or sometimes if you don't really engage in the conversation, it's something you don't want to kind of add on to, then it kind of, maybe it will fade away more quickly, or it will have less impact on you. So I kind of see it as also half of it is, having the awareness, like what's going on? Can I listen? What is actually happening there? And kind of knowing that this TV screen or what's going on in our mind, we can become more aware of it. And then the second part is do we want to engage in conversation? Do you want to add on to it and make it even stronger? Or is it something we kind of go, okay, you know what? I don't think that's true, or that doesn't matter to me right now, and I'm okay if I just let the voice say what it wants to and then let it go. So to me, that's kind of how I approach the inner voices. What are your thoughts on, our active role in what we can do with our voices?
Well, that is the key, is to engage in the conversation and really understand where it's coming from, and knowing that you can look at objective reality, and and you don't have to believe in these voices. There's lots of voices, there's lots of things that are running through our minds all the time, and we don't have to believe them. We can go, okay, well, that's an interesting thought, that I'm a horrible person or that I'm stupid, and I can just keep on working towards my goal. The trick is like, for you already hear your voices as voices. It's when those voices are sort of mingling down between the unconscious and the conscious mind, and they're just on the surface, and they're experienced more as thoughts rather than voices. And when that's even more difficult to get at, that's why you want to pay attention to that and bring them up a little bit more higher into the consciousness, so that you can deal with them and have that dialogue and write it out. And boy, how does one feel when one's hearing, boy, are you ever stupid? Boy, you're not any good at all. You can't do that. How do you feel? And I mean, you'd feel really crappy, right? And so the dialogue back might be, wow, you're really making me feel crappy. Do you want a friend who is making you feel bad? Or do you want a friend who's saying, you know what? I know you haven't felt great about yourself, but you can do this. Just, learn this, try this. You can do it. I believe in you. And that's the kind of friend that we want. We don't want a foe. And when we listen to that inner critical voice and make it our friend, then that's when we're contributing to depressed feelings, down feelings, sad feelings, hurt feelings, all the things that don't really make our lives rich and hold us back. What we want is, we want to be living free lives where we are creating who we want to be, and and we're listening to that deeper, more profound inner voice that's saying the things that really matter, like, you know what? You are an artist, and that's what you need to pursue. You know what? That friend is mean to you. That's not the right friend to you. This friend is a good friend. They are kind. You're in the wrong career. You are an accountant. That's not where your heart is. And we want to be able to get down to those voices. And to get there, you have to go through that layer that's really powerful of the critical voice.
I really, really enjoy that, all that you shared, and all the power we do have, and how it can be our cheerleader, and the possibilities that we have, whether we have a friend there who's cheering us on, or maybe it's someone who's going against us, but we know that we can have the choice to not engage, and we do have the choice to let it go. So I really, really appreciate what you shared there. Is there any last thoughts that you would like to share? One thing that I kind of want to add before we slowly wrap up is, for me, this awareness is kind of like the first step, because that TV can be in the background. If you're so used to it, you might not even hear it. But a sign for me to really pay attention, hey, maybe something's going on in the internal voices, is through emotion. If I'm feeling really angry or sad or disappointed, or some emotion is really being built up, and I want to inquire into why is it there and what caused it, or to even just want to feel differently, then I kind of want to raise that awareness, and I let that emotion to be kind of the signal, like, hey, maybe it's time to pay attention to what the thoughts and the internal voices are saying right now, because maybe those are the exact voices that are making me feel this way. Do you have anything to add regarding how to begin to be more mindful or aware of the inner voices?
Well, I think that you said it very clearly, and it's not maybe, it is your internal critical voices that are creating those feelings. Mm-hmm. And I think that whenever you're paying attention to yourself and you're trying to learn more and you're trying to become more aware and enlightened, that we do listen to our emotions, because they deliver so much about what's going on the deeper levels of our being. And, the critical voice is like just the tip of the iceberg to what's really going on inside of us, and that leads down into our core beliefs. And when we believe something, that's what we become. So if we believe we're no good and we're stupid, then we become that way. When we begin to find that way of believing in ourselves that we can do something, and I always find that the most important thing to do is to believe that we can learn to do whatever it is we need to do. Mm-hmm. If we can learn, then we have that freedom to begin to move in the directions that we would love to grow in. So it's important to remember that we have life-affirming thoughts and feelings and core beliefs, and we have life-destructive thoughts and inner voices and core beliefs. And when you pay attention to the destructive ones, then we behave destructively to ourselves. We put ourselves down. We don't live freely. Sometimes it even gets to the point where we are self-destructive. Use alcohol, drugs, even people who cut themselves to feel that pain in a visceral way, because the pain is inside the mind. These are self-destructive patterns coming from those self-destructive voices and beliefs. Then what we want to do is move into the life-affirming thoughts, life-affirming voices. And that's where you find the intuitive voice that you asked about earlier. An intuitive voice is always life-affirming. Yeah. Always.
That's wonderful. And I think that's a great point to kind of end on, because that is exactly what you've created, a free guided meditation, or you can call it hypnotic journey, where Cindy guides you to, unravel that life-affirming voice of yours, and to, experience that it is there, and that maybe it's a little bit quiet right now, but it can always get louder, and it's always there. So you can find that right underneath in the description. So just click on it, enter in your email, and it'll be delivered to your inbox. So I hope that you enjoyed this talk. And Cindy, any last thoughts, any words of encouragement for those who might be even new to this, or even a veteran, anyone who's, becoming on a journey to become more aware of their inner thoughts and establishing, a good relationship with themselves and maybe their internal best friend?
Well, again, it's always an exploration. It's always a continued evolution of becoming more and more deeply aware of who you are and what's going inside your mind. If you need help, get a great therapist or hypnotherapist, work through these things, and keep evolving and keep looking for the life-affirming qualities in the world, the life-affirming people in your life. Just keep going on that direction. And that will help. Yeah. And as always, Natty, it's an honor and lots of fun to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you wrapped it up so beautifully, because the internal voices are, yes, inside, but we're spreading this outward, and these life-affirming things or people or situation opportunities are out there, and really we just have to go out there and go towards this direction. And I think that in every person, as long as there's this living fire, we are wishing deeply to reach to those places where it's life-affirming, and we truly, deeply do want to listen to those voices. So here's the opportunity for you to dive deeply and enjoy it, and let us know if you have any questions. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Cindy, for jumping on, and I can't wait what we will come up next for the next Fireside Chat. So see you another time and check out our other Fireside Chats.
Bye. Looking forward to next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Until then.